Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to the webcast, How INFOhio's iSearch Helps Students Succeed. I am happy to introduce Gar Sydnor, EBSCO's Vice President of Discovery Innovation for K-12 and Public Libraries, as well as Erica Clay, INFOhio's Integration Librarian, who will be our speakers today. As a reminder, this event will be recorded and the recording will be sent to all registrants, as well as posted on our blog at discovery.ebsco.com/pulse. Thank you. And here's Gar and Erica.
Thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to give you a little bit more background, I work with EBSCO's Discovery Service, primarily with K-12s and publics. I've spent my entire career in that part of the library space, and most of my work is centered around making that great content that all of your school libraries have more accessible. Not just to your students, but also to your faculty, so that it can be included more easily in the curriculum, and just overall creating a better online experience for students and patrons alike. I'm joined today by Erica Clay from INFOhio, and they use our EBSCO Discovery product for a statewide implementation, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself and her organization.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So INFOhio is Ohio's pre-K through 12 digital library, and we do three main things. We provide a group rate and technical support for school library automation, and currently we have about 86% of Ohio public school districts and many private schools using INFOhio automation. Last year, through our automation, we circulated over 19 million print texts and other hard copy materials to students last year. And then we also offer millions of pages of digital content, including things like magazine and journal articles, ebooks, primary source documents at no charge to students in all of Ohio's K-12 schools. And that's public, private, chartered, online, and including homeschoolers as well. And we do this by licensing databases for all K-12 students. And like I said, this is free to all schools, whether they license the library software from us or not. And then we also offer free training to educators in Ohio in using our digital content. And last year we offered almost 35,000 hours of face-to-face and online training. And we do all of that with one goal in mind. We want to make sure that Ohio's 1.9 million pre-K through 12 students have the educational content they need to be successful. Now, as we're talking about what Discovery does and what INFOhio has done, I want you to keep in mind that what we've done has been on a large scale. But the nice thing about that, about what we're talking about today, is that it's completely scalable. So whether you're part of a consortium or if you're managing the library content for an entire district, I've looked at who we've got here in the attendees box, and it looks like there are some of you from districts. Or even if you're in a single school library and you're operating independently, maybe you're at a private school, we face the same challenges, and we can use some of the same tools to confront those challenges.
So what I'd like to do is to start off with a little bit of explanation about how things are now, and not just libraries, but in the online user world. And if we ask students where they go to research for answers and information right now, you're likely going to get some version of Google. This is the same answer you would get from the adults. I've even heard, if you ask some of your older friends, that they're actually now calling it the Google. And what we hear from libraries a lot is, why can't we be more like Google? And so if you came to this presentation thinking we were going to replace Google, we're not here to do that. Google is quite good at giving facts back and simple queries back to information. But we're going to talk more about the context of what they can't do. And these aren't silly questions to ask, why can't we be more like Google? Because the next question might very well be in libraries, why do we need the libraries if you have Google on a Chromebook or an iPad? So we want to be able to answer that. And Erica, I think you're seeing more Google schools in Ohio now?
Right. We have a lot of schools that have become Google schools, and when we check and see how our users are accessing our content, we're finding that most of them are doing it through the Chrome browser now.
Great. So we're going to explain today how your library, in many ways, is better than what Google can do, and or what, frankly, your students can find on the open web. And we're doing that by studying how they use search engines, what we know about them, what we know about user habits, what we're doing research on our own about, so that we can make your library experiences even better. So I'm going to start off with a library site that I actually like, and it looks fairly familiar. This is your typical library experience. You have your white box there for doing searches. You have some navigation links, and the user ID and password is in the right place. It's attractive, but there's one big problem here. What is it searching? For you and probably, for me and everyone on this call, you're probably thinking, well, it's just searching the catalog. But for your students and for a lot of faculty members, when they see that search box, they think they're searching everything. And if they type in something other than a title, author, subject, or note field, they're more than likely going to get some screen like this. It's worse than a busy signal because they're frankly saying, sorry, we don't have anything. And if it doesn't fit in that narrow parameters of search items, this is what they'll get. And in fact, most of the error messages offer for you to double down to try your search again, which again is probably going to end up with a lot of misery and frustration. So how do they get this idea? Why do your students think this is the way it should work? Why do your faculty members think this is the way it should work? It's because this is the way it works everywhere else on the web. If you go to an Amazon site, they don't make you search a different interface, or they don't make you tell it ahead of time that I want to search something other than books if I want to search for sinks or perfume or shoes. Same goes on any other retail site for that matter. All retail sites now know that if we put a white box up there, that user has the impression that they are searching everything that your library has to offer, not just your catalog. So what do we see when we get to libraries? A lot of times we have these long lists of databases. There's nothing wrong with this in and of itself. However, your users haven't yet been trained to think, oh, I'm searching EBSCO, or I'm searching Gale, or I'm searching World Book. They're not even familiar, frankly, with the company names, much less the database names. And Erica, this is the INFOhio page, and I think you had some other comments about INFOhio here.
Right. We were running into problems with asking students to look in a catalog for one kind of resource and then trying to get them to come to a database for another kind of resource. Because we're using words like databases and digital content and electronic resources, and a lot of K-12 students don't have any idea what we're talking about when we say that. And we also we're running into problems with asking students to be able to try to remember what kind of electronic resource or database they should be using when they were at home, when they're presented with a great big long list of options.
So what are we to do? Do we have to recreate the wheel here? Do we have to come up with something entirely new, or can we learn from just this little bit of information? The answer is yes, and I love giving this book recommendation. I'll leave it on the screen here for a second so you can write it down. It's called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. And this comes to me courtesy of our user research department that we have here at EBSCO that is constantly surveying the marketplace. They do more than just surveys. They're actually watching users use products without actually biasing the results. And so they can discover a lot of things, but there's also quite a few rules of thumb or heuristics out there that we can learn from that have already been documented well, especially in this book. And one of them is that users don't actually read pages, they scan them. So there's certain places that you put information. There's certain rules of thumb that you have to recognize. And if you need any proof of that, you can certainly watch anybody or browse with someone else and watch how you browse at different speeds. Generally, you or the person over your shoulder is browsing a lot faster, and it can be sort of frustrating, but that's how it works. The other point is that I pulled out of the book is that we don't actually figure out how things work. We muddle through. These are things that hopefully you're nodding your head and going, yeah, that's true. If you have a cell phone in your pocket or a smartphone in your pocket, I bet you never read a manual about it. You just figured out how it worked. So these are just a few snippets out of this book which will sort of give you some idea of how users actually use the web. It's very, it's written so if you don't know a whole lot or you're a beginner like I am, you can certainly understand it. It's easy to read, lots of pictures, and it's a great book recommendation. We'll come back to that a few times. So we want to take that database page that a lot of libraries have, attractive or not, and we want to turn that into a universal index. That's what the students expect to see. They want to see that white box, and they want to know that it can search not only your catalog, but it can search everything that you have. And it's a good point here to talk about the idea of why do you want to do that, because frankly, that's why it's important. Google is top of mind. Wikipedia is top of mind. The reason they search it is because it's easy. It's easy to get access to. It's easy to understand. And that, frankly, is your competition in a school library. It's only one click away. And if you are not able to engage them, they will go pretty quickly over to one of those open web resources. So what do we have in our school libraries? This is what gets overlooked over and over and over again. The library catalog is a relatively small amount of data compared to all the licensed content that your average school has. Whether you purchase it your own or someone has purchased it for you, there is an immense amount of online data. Come up with whatever analogy you want. Your catalog is a grain of sand compared to the beach of information that your licensed catalog has. It's gigantic, and it's frankly a lot of the information that Google couldn't give you access to. It would be behind paywalls. You might get an abstract, you might get a link to an article, but at some point that student's going to have to come up with some type of access to actually get to the article. And I pulled a page here from, it's actually from a public library website, but I really like the way they phrase this on their research page. And it's the same answer that you would give whether or not you asked, why do we need resources like this for our students, or why do, frankly, we need libraries? And it's this. The quality of information that you're getting in your licensed content compared to your websites is completely different. First of all, you should ask yourself, do you want something that's written by a professional or an expert in the field, or do you want an opinion or a blog? Does it matter to you that an editor checked that information, that it was fact-checked by someone that has the ability to do so, that it's well organized, that the point of view is neutral as opposed to someone having a perspective that may be slanted one way or the other? All of these points are very important for determining whether or not you're getting just average information or information that's been fact-checked and peer-reviewed and is usable, frankly, in the papers that the students want to write. And while this is on a public library site, there's also some other aspects that are important about authorship and accuracy in schools.
Right. A lot of times students may not know the difference between a professional author or a professional researcher, and so some of those things may be a little fuzzy for our K-12 students, but there are other things to keep in mind as well. For example, a lot of times with our premium resources, we can actually measure the readability of our resources and help us differentiate for our students. So if you're using things like Lexiles, it's very difficult to find things at a particular Lexile level if you're just looking out there on the open web.
So this is where we are right now. We have a huge demand out there that is going to resources other than the library, or at least is not going to the library as much as we would like them to. They're going to search engines, the open web, whatever sites, and these users are out there. It's a simple supply and demand problem. You have the demand right here with your school users and your faculty, and they're bouncing around these sites, and then you have EBSCO Discovery, where we can link that demand with the supply that your library already has. That's what we're looking to do, and That's what we're hoping to achieve. So how do we do that? How do we improve that user experience to take that huge demand that the students have and marry that with the supply that your library has?
And I'll add, too, that we also want to make sure that we're doing this for our teachers. We have a lot of teachers coming into the profession who are new, and they are used to this improved search experience that they had when they were in college. And then they come into the K-12 environment, and they have to kind of take a step back. So we want it to be effective for both our students and our teachers.
So back to the user research that EBSCO has done and how that applies to our discovery service. On the surface, these points seem sort of obvious, but it bears some explanation just to go through them real quickly. Discovery has to be usable if it's going to be used or if it's going to be accessed easily. And when we say easy to use, we mean it needs to be easy to use like a Google or Wikipedia. You need to be able to give them foundational knowledge before you give them some of the deeper knowledge. You have to be able to introduce them to a subject before they get into the details, and we'll show you how to do that. It also needs to be fast. It can't be something that takes a long time to get results for. That's not the way it is out on the rest of the web. It can't be that in your library as well. The next one, smart, can be fairly subjective. There's a number of ways that a system can be dumb, in quotes, and it can be dumb by giving you a completely irrelevant topic on what you just searched. It can be dumb in how it presents the results to you, which goes along with being easy to navigate. And then finally, as we mentioned before, the user needs to be able to scan those results and get to what they want to very quickly there. One point I'd like to say here is that if any of you have had any experience with federated search options, federated search is none of these things listed on your screen right now. It's not easy to use. In fact, it's not fast. It can only be as fast as the fastest database. It's not smart because there's no awareness of the data from one product to the next. It's not indexed together. And because of that, it's very hard to navigate. You have to go in and out of databases back and forth, and it's completely unreadable. Because it's been none of these things, it has not really taken off. So we are not talking about federated search. We are talking about taking all the data that your library has, all the licensed content, even your library catalog if you want, even some of your institutional repositories if you want, and indexing it in one single place. And what's different about this is that this has not been done before in the industry. We have our competitor data on this discovery index, indexed with our own data, so that you can get the benefits of searching all of these resources at the same time and get the best option or the best result for what you were hoping to find. That technology looks like this. First of all, we enhanced autocomplete. Not only are we able to help you spell topics before you even start typing them in, but we also have a pretty good idea, because we have web scale, because it's used so widely, about what you expect to find when, or what you may be looking for based on a popular search basis. So across all the schools, across all the institutions, all the users of EBSCO's Discovery Service, we can help you fill in the blanks. So this is one thing that Google does quite well. It has not been possible in the library world because all you were looking at is one database. Now when you're looking at all of these databases indexed together, you're getting the benefit of seeing all of those searches and getting those most popular searches coming in first right there at the top of your screen. It has millions of terms. They're ordered by popularity, and it's updated daily. The other thing that we can do is we don't have to treat all the students the same way. You're looking here at the INFOhio basic search screen, or basic search results screen, and for the elementary kids or the younger kids, they have actually narrowed down the resources because it doesn't make sense to give them everything in the kitchen sink. They've got simpler encyclopedias, databases here, and some of the more age-appropriate databases here as well. When we move to an advanced results screen, and this would be for the older students, you get something new here, and that's called the Research Starter, which you can see there at the top of your screen. when we researched not just 8th graders, but all the way up to doctoral students, what we found was that no matter what the topic and no matter what the expertise that user had in the topic, they appreciated being able to dip their toe in the water, to get a shallow dive, just to reacquaint themselves with the subject, for instance, or reacquaint themselves with the subject terms. And that's what these research starters do. They appear at the top after a user has typed in a search. There are more than 70,000 of them, and because of that single index and and because we're watching anonymously what the users are searching, we can actually see when a certain topic is trending and it needs a research starter. And because of that, more than 75% of all searches done on EBSCO's Discovery Service have a research starter now, which is pretty good if you think about it. That's almost saturation. It's pretty hard to get that last 25%, but that means that for whatever search they type in, they're likely going to get a research starter at the top, which does a few things. First of all, it gives them a little bit of information. Remember I talked about being smart or being something like they've seen before? This is a lot like Wikipedia in that they get a little bit of information, they get some images, they get some other search terms that they might want to use, which will help them go back and recreate their search. And at the bottom of each of these is a really good bibliography or suggested reading list. Some of the resources point right back into your own electronic online content. This is a fantastic way, and this answers that question of whether or not your service is not only simple, but it's smart. If I just needed to know a quick definition of a term, if I just needed to know a little bit of information before I did a much broader search, these research starters do that. It is one of the more popular things that we offer across our service.
And I'll add that the research starters, I think, have really helped our students dig into iSearch. They really like those research starters. The teachers do too. As we were implementing iSearch, which is what we call our discovery layer, we were reading the Project Information Literacy Report that came out in 2013, and it was talking about how students need good background information, but it's a step that they often skip. And so we really liked that those research starters appear at the top of the page and draw students in.
Another feature that we can do, again, because we're watching all the searches, is to help students spell their terms. If you spelled centrifugal the way I would with C's and Q's and all the wrong letters, we can give you a did you mean fuzzy matching search against that because of the web scale that we have using our service now. This is an interesting one. We've called them facets forever, and they have facets. This is one thing you can't do with federated search, and you can do with EBSCO's Discovery Service. When everything's indexed together, we can give you facets for the source type, subject heading. You can even narrow down to a particular journal. Everyone's used to seeing these in retail sites. They know what they are. One of the interesting things that came out of one of our research studies is that most students had no idea what we meant when we said facets or limiters, and what they actually understood was the word filters. So I'm having to train myself, and the rest of us are, to help the students understand filters is what they want these called. That's what they understand these to be, and that's what the Discovery Service can offer them.
And we like that a lot of those filters match what students would find in an advanced Google search. That was one of the things that we heard when we initially launched iSearch, was that we had some users asking us, are we dumbing it down? Are we making it too easy? And we had some users saying that they never let their students do a general Google search at school. They always recommended the Google Advanced Search. And we said, but that's great, because if you look at what you can limit to on a Google Advanced Search, it's very similar to the filters that you find in your Discovery Service. So you'll find things like language, publication date, but in a discovery tool, they don't have to know in advance. They can get their list of results and then narrow them down once they see their different options.
And one of the last features I wanted to show is being able to search within the publication. You can imagine being able to take all that online content with all the resources that you have in that and say, oh, but I really just wanted to search this particular journal. And when you type in that particular journal name, the first thing that we appear instead of a research starter that we show at the top of the screen is the ability to search within that publication. Again, for all the databases that are in that single index, you just type in the journal name and you're able to search within it. Then, of course, it wouldn't do us much good if all that information wasn't shareable, if you couldn't push it to where you need it or to make it portable and take it with you. And just like other products that we've had with EBSCO, we have a variety of sources or a variety of methods for transporting this information that the users expect to see in any service they use, much less their library service.
And students really love the ability to email results to themselves or add results to folders and share those folders, or even the citation helpers. So it's really important to us that the tool that we use maintain the actual database tools that students would normally find in the native database environment.
So the last way we make this better is probably the one that I probably don't explain it as often for audiences like this because, frankly, everyone expects any type of online search to work like this already. But by that I mean they expect the result to be relevant. You've gotten that with Google. You've gotten that with a variety of other open web services. Why shouldn't your library service be relevant? And the way that we do that is exactly the same ways that they do it. Number one, we're watching the searches. Number two, we can match on certain headings or on certain keywords, no matter which fields they appear in. You've seen some of that in catalogs already, but we add some kickers to that or some multipliers for that for currency or document type. Is it a full text article or not? Is it a 3/4 of a page article or 4 pages? That relevancy goes to ease of use and it goes to whether or not your system is smart. And it's a good time to mention, once again, this is what's been wrong with federated search and what's been wrong with having to search multiple databases at once. Imagine being able to take not just one vendor's databases, but all the databases that you have access to, indexing them together, relevancy ranking them so that when your user types in a search, they get the best article no matter what the source. This is what's been happening out on the open web for a long, long time. It's what needs to happen in libraries, and we can do it for you now. So what happens when a library implements Discovery? What's the payoff here? Well, the first thing is if you have college-bound students in your library, it does a couple of things. First of all, it gives them a head start, not just to using a discovery service, but actually to the databases themselves. They can train on it, which we'll get to the importance of that in a second. It also opens doors to information that they may not have been aware were out there before. They can reach a level of proficiency that is not only going to help them in high school, but is also going to be very helpful to them in college. And when they get to college, no matter, frankly, where they go these days, EBSCO Discovery Service is in more than 6,000 institutions, but a lot of these college libraries are using not just EBSCO service, but they might have another. And so the point is that one way or another, if they're going to college, they're going to hit a discovery service.
For INFOhio, iSearch very quickly became one of our college and career readiness initiatives. We found that the vast majority of academic libraries in Ohio were using some kind of discovery layer, like Gar said. And then Ohio's learning standards are an adaptation of the Common Core state standards. And if you're using those standards, you know that college and career readiness is a prominent thread throughout the standards. So we wanted our students engaging in rigorous research and using the kind of research tools that we knew that they would use in college. And we wanted the research environment to feel familiar when they go to college. We wanted it to be something that they would recognize.
And just to put an exclamation point on that type of research, EBSCO Discovery is the market leader there, but again, discovery services are pretty prolific in college libraries. They're liable to hit one or the other when they go. And to give you some research to back that up, this is a School Library Journal article from September 19th of 2014. colleges want their students to graduate in 4 years. Well, frankly, they like it 5 or 6 years, but they want their students to graduate that enter as freshmen. And one of the ways that we tracked, we went and asked those students that were doing well as freshmen, whether they were writing papers or doing research, where they learned those skills. And the ones that were most proficient, the ones that had the most digital literacy, learned those skills as freshmen in high school. So this is another way where you're giving them a step up, a boost up to being prepared for college, not just to get there, but to stay there and to be able to get past those hard freshman courses that sort of weed out the ones that stay and the ones that aren't able to manage the workload. Well, here's the easy one. Your database usage goes up. Whatever your database usage is now, it will go up by virtue of the fact that it's easier to get access to the information and it's indexed together.
And not only does your database usage go up, but for INFOhio, adding this discovery tool to our research toolbox has meant an increase in the access to and the use of full text. That's really important to us. We want to know that we are connecting students with high quality texts. In fact, since we launched iSearch, that is primarily what we measure now, how often our users are downloading or viewing the full text. And between October 2014, when we launched iSearch, and June 2015, the resources that are available through iSearch, whether they are EBSCO databases or whether they are databases or resources that we are pulling in through our through those EBSCO connectors, those resources had a 121% increase in full text content views compared with the same time the previous year.
And so who wouldn't want that? Those numbers are fantastic, but frankly, those numbers are expected for any library that increases discovery because of all the things that we've outlined so far. And the reason why it's important is because you have students in your library right now, like this one I have highlighted on the screen, where libraries are just about books for them. They don't use the libraries because they're not book people. It has not occurred to them that the library has something other than books that may be useful to them in all of the content that you're researching.
And then along with discovery, opening up new worlds to your users, new sources of information to your users, it's important to make sure that you're getting your discovery layer in front of your users. You're getting that search box out there as much as you possibly can. So we have added iSearch widgets to many of our INFOhio pages. We've made a widget available for our teachers and school librarians to download and add to their own websites. We've added it to the top of our list of resources because we want our users to understand that that's a good place to get started. And so what you're seeing here is some recent feedback that we've had on iSearch. One of the interesting things we found in talking with this teacher was that she thought we had increased our content. She said a few years ago, I would have only found 2 or 3 academic articles on her topic. But the truth is we had not increased our content or our subscriptions. It's just that our discovery layer simply improved the access to the content that we already had. And then when we heard this, we were thrilled. In 2014, INFOhio conducted focus groups with teachers around the state, and their number one frustration was that they don't have time to do everything they want to be able to do. So it's really important to us that we offer our teachers and our students a tool that is easy and efficient and saves them time. We want to be able to save our students and educators time on the things that aren't as important so that they can spend more time on things that are important, like how to evaluate sources or how to integrate sources ethically into their research. And then these are some comments from high school students who were taking post-secondary or dual enrollment classes. They're students that take high school and college classes at the same time. And you can see what she says about those facet limiters. It's tricky to come up with one word that everyone recognizes. So now they're being called filters, but students more are understanding how easy it is to narrow down their results using those filters that are on the left-hand side there.
So I'll close with this last point. I was in a teacher conference with a AP history teacher, and he was talking to a number of parents, and he said, you know, if your kids are using Google and Google only for my class, they're not going to do very well. Google is fantastic for giving quick facts and quick answers, but it doesn't give the story. It doesn't give the context. And I would take that same answer and I would apply that to your library. And Neil Gaiman had this fantastic quote: Google can bring you back 100,000 answers, and a librarian can bring you back the right one. In fact, your search experience can give you 100,000 answers, but EBSCO's Discovery can give you back the right one. And that's what we're doing. That's what's so exciting. That's what hasn't been offered before in this marketplace, and why it's so much fun to see libraries implementing it and getting this huge increase out of their database usage and all the other benefits that we talked about. Without having to replace Google or Wikipedia, we're giving them another set of resources that are even better, that work like that and make them more successful. So that's the end of our formal presentation, but we do have some time here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that are available. And of course, these products are available for trial, or we're available for conversations afterwards.
Great, thank you, Gar and Erica. So we do have a few questions already coming in. This one's from Michelle. Can you access all the research starters at once to use an initial topic selection?
The research starters is actually embedded in the interface, and it is a separate database, although, gosh, I don't want to answer definitively. I'm pretty sure that it's not a limited database. It pulls from a variety of resources, encyclopedias, and other database products, but for any given topic, a research starter is meant to display at the top of a result list to give the user a lay of the land, or frankly, if they just had a simple question, it'll give them that simple answer, just like they would get if they went to an open web search engine.
Great, thank you. And from Ellen, are research starters available at the lower reading interest level articles?
I believe I'll have to take a pass on that question. I don't think there's any age or audience. I think they're more general than that, and on purpose they don't get into a ton of detail. That's part of what the bibliography and the suggested reading list do at the bottom, as well as the extra search terms. But that's something also that if you just give it a try, you can sort of see for yourself how it works. With if you notice on the INFOhio page, and maybe Erica can speak to this, they don't have the research starters turned on. They just have the simple encyclopedias and some of the age-appropriate databases appearing in the result list.
With INFOhio, we have found that the research starters tend to be for a slightly older audience. They are at a slightly higher lexile level. I know that EBSCO does have something called topic overviews, and I think those are in the Explora primary. Actually, Gar probably knows more about that than I do, but we use Explora primary, and we find that those topic overviews function similarly to the research starters. They pop up near the top, and those tend to be at a lower lexile level.
Yes, that's a brand new feature that is coming to EBSCO's Discovery Service very soon. That will allow, because we know what's being searched a lot, we've created these sort of enhanced topic overviews And those will be available as part of EBSCO Discovery Service in the future too. And those are age appropriate in some cases.
Okay, thank you. And Regina brings up a discussion point. She says, shouldn't we be training students how to be effective searchers to leave school with an understanding of how to find information in different formats online? I think this is related to the simplicity of the system.
Right, and so I'll hop in here. I think that that is exactly what we're doing. As you can see, the interface for these, this discovery tool is very much like what students find in any kind of general search. And so rather than teach them up front to do a very elaborate advanced search, when we know that that's not what they're doing in other places, whether they're on Google or whether they are on Amazon or in YouTube, I believe that we have a better chance of helping them transition to what they're going to find in college if the research environment feels familiar to them. And so now, but I will say that we do have users that still say, well, I want students to understand how to do a Boolean search. And there are things like that that you can set up within your discovery service. So you can, if you feel like students need to be able to learn how to do those more advanced search skills or apply more advanced search techniques, you can definitely do that within your discovery service.
And we've sort of talked about a fairly narrow definition of discovery this afternoon. That functionality is available through advanced searches. Boolean searches are available. But discovery, it may not just be the article that you're looking for. It may be discovering that the library has a database that you go back to and use in its native format. That's fine. That's great. That's what they were designed to do as well. I have high school students in my household that are my kids. I've encouraged them to not use Google as much and use Discovery, which is sort of interesting. And when I went back and checked with one of them and said, have you been using Discovery? I said, no. I said, really? I said, what are you using? They said, well, I've been finding everything I needed on points of view, and I just keep going back to that. That's a great outcome. They've discovered that particular database in their library that they would not have necessarily discovered because they didn't want to navigate a database page, or they didn't want to navigate a particular interface that didn't have all of the usability or user experience benefits that we're offering through Discovery. So this is not a either or. This is your ice cream and your cake, and you can eat it too.
Thanks. Also from Regina, does this product work with catalogs so students can search and find books as well?
Yes. And it actually does something sort of interesting with catalogs because that data set is so small. If you typed in a particular title, a Lemony Snicket book or something like that, we actually boost the relevancy so that the catalog results don't get lost in the mix with everything else. So those titles will appear higher up in the list, and in fact, we can do just as well. In fact, I think we do it actually a lot better than some of the school catalogs. When you type in a known item or a known author, we're not only going to give you a research starter, but we'll also give you that particular bestseller book right at the top of the list.
Excellent, thank you. I don't see any other questions. Oh, one more question, sorry. How much does this product cost? I believe she's referring to research starters, which is included, I believe.
Research starters is included with every EBSCO Discovery installation, as well as every installation is a one-off to make it work perfectly for that particular student body, and that's all built into the cost. They're highly customizable by you or by us, and if you just reach out to your salesperson or reach out to one of us afterwards, we can get in touch with you.
Great, thank you. So I do not see any more questions coming in at the time, so we can conclude whenever you'd like.
I don't have anything else to say. I appreciate everyone's time this afternoon, and I encourage you to get in touch with us and find out what other libraries are doing, or go look at the INFOhio page. You can at least see the front page to see how they have it implemented, and we look forward to hearing from some of you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.